My daughter came home crying with an F because her teacher doesn't know what color blood is. The first time I realized something was wrong, Riley came home from school holding out her arm. "Look, Dad, you can see the blue blood in my veins right here." She traced the blue lines under her skin with her finger. I put down my coffee and looked at her. "Actually, sweetheart, that's not true. Blood is always red because of hemoglobin. It's just darker red in your veins." Her face scrunched up, but Mrs. Miller showed us a whole PowerPoint about it. She even had diagrams from a science book. The next morning, I packed my work scrubs in my bag. I'm an ER nurse at Mercy General, and I was working the afternoon shift anyway. I sent Mrs. Miller an email asking if I could do a quick presentation about blood for career day that afternoon. She loved the idea. When I arrived, Mrs. Miller introduced me as Riley's dad who works at the hospital. 28 kids stared up at me from their desks. "I heard you guys learned that blood is blue inside your body," I said. The entire class nodded enthusiastically. Mrs. Miller beamed from her desk in the corner. I pulled out a blood collection tube from my pocket and held it up. "This is what we use to draw blood at the hospital. Notice something. The tube creates a vacuum. No oxygen inside at all." I paused. "When we draw blood with these, it never touches oxygen until we pop the cap off." I showed them photos on my phone of sealed blood tubes. "See? Still red." Mrs. Miller's smile started fading. She shifted in her chair and cleared her throat. A boy raised his hand and pointed to their science textbook. "But our textbook says it's blue." I picked up the book and checked the publication date, 1998. Medicine updates pretty fast. We used to think lots of things that turned out to be wrong. Mrs. Miller suddenly stood up from her desk, her hands gripping the edge. "Well, thank you for that interesting presentation, Mr. Johnson, but we need to move on to math now." I nodded and started packing when a girl in the back raised her hand. "So our textbook is wrong?" The class erupted in whispers. Mrs. Miller's jaw clenched and her voice got tight. "The curriculum says..." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling up the state science standards on my phone. I walked over and turned my phone toward her. "The current curriculum specifically mentions this myth as something to correct." She stared at the screen and her eyes narrowed. Her mouth pressed into a thin line and her nostrils flared. "Can I speak with you in the hallway?" The kids watched as we walked out and the door closed behind us. "Do you have any idea how hard it is when parents undermine my authority?" Her face was red and her voice was sharp. "Now they'll question everything I say." I kept my voice calm. "Isn't that exactly what we want them to do? Question things and learn critical thinking?" She crossed her arms tightly. "I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm not changing my whole curriculum because some nurse thinks he knows better than our textbooks." The next day, I found out Mrs. Miller gave the class a pop quiz. Riley came home crying, her face red and puffy. Her hands were shaking as she handed me a paper with a big red F on it. I took a deep breath and felt my jaw tighten as I looked at the question. What color is blood inside the body? Riley had written red, and Mrs. Miller had marked it wrong. I requested a meeting with Principal Davis and brought printouts of medical textbooks, the state science standards, and Riley's quiz. The principal called in Mrs. Miller and asked her directly, "Is blood blue inside the body?" After a long pause, Mrs. Miller said, "It's what the children understand better." I leaned forward in my chair. "My daughter is crying every morning before school because she's afraid of getting Fs for writing down the truth." The next day, the school replaced their science books. Now whenever Riley learns something new at school, she comes home and asks me, "Dad, is this actually true or is it just a Mrs. Miller truth?"